Hey everyone, the name is Erik Thor, and in today's video we're talking about what you don't know about the Introverted Intuition. And the truth is, you probably don't know a lot about it. Introverted Intuition is said to be the dominant cognitive function and thinking process of the INFJ and INTJ personality types. And it's also furthermore argued that Introverted Intuition is a form of theoretical conceptual intelligence. Some people say you're an INFJ or an INTJ if you hold a lot of abstract theories, if you know a lot about philosophy, if you have a lot of interest in history and in different things, right? Now, you can have read different things about it online. Perhaps you read that introverted intuitives are often psychic, that they're seers, that they often predict the future, that they spend a lot of time thinking about the future, that they tend to be abstract, weird, eccentric, esoteric, interested in spirituality, and in depth, right? The word depth is often one that comes up for introverted intuition. But very few articles actually talk about what introverted intuition looks like. And even looking at Carl Jung's original articles on introverted intuition, it can sometimes be hard because he says, well, introverted intuition can sound like a voice crying out into the wilderness, or the introverted intuition is the function of a crank or a seer or a mystic, right? And so it can be like, we know we're talking about something, but we don't talk about what that something is and what its base principles are and how it works and where it comes from, right? And Carl Jung gives some clues. He says it comes from the unconscious, but there's lots of problems with just this thing and statement in general, right? Because Carl Jung said that we have some functions that are in our conscious stack and some that are in our unconscious stack. But if introverted intuition is by its definition unconscious, that suggests that introverted intuition is a conscious-unconscious paradox, which already lets a lot of people get stuck in a moment of doubt. Now, then, what would I say that introverted intuition is? Well, often I tend to ask questions related to, do you come up with concepts and theories? Do you enjoy speculating about what's going to happen next? Are you good at, and do you enjoy predicting what's going to happen, predicting what score somebody's going to get, predicting who's going to win an election, predicting, what's going to happen at an event when you're headed to later on at the day, right? Like, a lot of the time, these are kind of base elements that we see with introverted intuition. Now, once again, I'm just saying what it tends to do and what it tends to enjoy, but I'm not describing, once again, what it is. So, what I've found that introverted intuition is, and this is something that fascinates me, is introverted intuition is an alchemical process. So what that means is, typically it seems introverted intuition is primarily triggered by art, symbols, words, and these kinds of strange gestures and expressions and things like that, right? So it seems that introverted intuition takes its beginning point in feeling and perceiving. And so it tends to have a strong reaction to aesthetics. It seems Carl Jung, for example, got most of his NI theories and concepts from looking at human archetypes, books, stories, music, art, and experiences like those. So it seems like these are the base building blocks that introverted intuition uses, right? So it seems that introverted intuition takes its starting point in the feeling factor and an emotional factor. And so a lot of people say introverted intuition is like a gut instinct. And often I've challenged that in videos and I've said, no, it's not a gut instinct. It's the rationalization of a gut. And so introverted intuition is not by its nature the symbols themselves. And so when you look at a picture in a book, that's not introverted intuition. Though a painting or a black blob on a Rorschach test can look to have a shape and can look to have a symbol and a meaning that we can understand through introverted intuition, that symbol itself is not introverted intuition. It's simply the starting stone, the building block for introverted intuition. So Carl Jung would often look at mandalas and symbols, but the thing is, as an introverted intuitive, he didn't stop there. Carl Jung started there, right? And what made him an introverted intuitive was not his capacity for observing symbols and looking at them and finding them beautiful or aesthetically pleasing, or for being concerned with the emotions that he got when he looked at them, right? No, what really separated and defined Carl Jung as an introverted intuitive was the fact that he would rationalize these symbols and spend a long time thinking about what they meant and what their deeper meaning was. And so in a way, he was looking at something very emotional, very feeling in its nature. He was looking at symbols and art, but he was looking at it like a thinking type would. And he was looking at it wondering, what does it mean? Why is it there? What are the base principles of this? Are the deeper connotations of this? Why do we continue to refer to these symbols? Why do people keep dreaming about these things? And what is the deeper meaning behind it? And now a true thinking type, an INTP or an ISTP, might say, that's all bullshit and that's not interesting and that's not what I want to deal with. I want to deal with things I can test and true measure, right? So in that sense, like, you'll see that there's a difference and a distinction to be made there. But what Carl Jung did was he, like a thinking type, employed a thinking process to understand and decode symbols, but he also had a feeling person's or a feeling type's interest in these symbols. And I'd say that's what made him an introverted intuitive. And now you might ask yourself, why did he do it? And for what purpose do we use introverted intuition? And what's the value of it as a function? And what's the point of using it in the first place? And what I've found is it can function as an abstract and conceptual map that allows us to navigate new experiences, right? So imagine that we say that the entire world can be defined of two forces, yin and yang, right? So just the ability to conceptualize and say that there is a yin and there's a yang, to look at two symbols or words and to then rationalize and say that yin is masculine and works according to these principles and these rules and these laws, and yang works according to those laws and principles, and these two symbols relate to each other in that way, right? Just by doing that, it's possible to maximize learning. It's possible to decode new information faster, because without any form of initial concept, an experience is just an experience. Without a map, the mind can't break down and decode information. Imagine we go into a room, and inside that room there are lots of things, but no things that we have ever seen before, with no colors that we have ever looked at ever before, no words, with no map, with no structure. The human mind cannot comprehend what is in that room. It can simply say that there are things in that room. I don't know what those things are, right? But there is a room with a roomness, like a distinct vibe, a distinct quality, right? So what language does, what metaphors do, what symbols do, they allow us to start grouping things. And if we have rules and principles for what these symbols are, if they're not just an artistic chaos of abstraction, if there are rules and principles and categories that we can use to understand these things, then we're given the opportunity to start understanding what it is that we are experiencing. Because now we know that, oh, those are board games, and oh, those are books, and oh, those are kitchenware, just by looking at this, oh, that's a chair, right? Now every single time we look at something that has the distinct qualities of a chair, the four legs, or the distinct shape, or the distinct function or rules or principles that we have defined for chairs, right, in our mind, right? Now we can understand what chairs are, right? So with introverted intuition, we have these kinds of conceptual maps. And it goes deeper than that, right? Because typically introverted intuition is at its best when tackling abstract systems and problems, right? Because when we're thinking about something like quantum physics, or like physics in general, right? Or like what's inside Schrödinger's box, or what is happening in maths, or what the fundamental principles are of maths and how we can use it to understand different things around us, right? When we are dealing with things like that, introverted intuition is at its best, because introverted intuition deals with typically conceptual ideas. So often, if it's possible to simply just go there with our measuring tape and a ruler and to just go and hands-on measure and study and categorize and label and define everything that's happening in a more practical sense of the way, then introverted sensing is definitely a superior product. It can deal with and it can more accurately and more consistently map and organize information. But when dealing with abstract topics, what life looks like on other planets, what's happening on other places that we can't visit, or what's going on inside the mind, well, in those situations, introverted intuition is superior, because introverted intuition allows us to reason about and understand these. But that's not to say that the introverted intuition doesn't have its set of dangers, right? Because typically it's often prone to falling for erroneous beliefs and abstract nonsense and conspiracies and all manners of crackpottery, right? So A lot of the time, you know, the systems that Introverted Intuition formulates don't directly relate to any physical object or any practical reality. So we can look at the planets and we can say that they influence our behavior, right? And a lot of people believe in that. And perhaps there is some influence in some regard. Who am I to say? But a lot, up until now, science has not been able to prove that there is, right? So no phenomenon understood through astrology has been consistently proven. We still can't say or know how this is working. We can try to use astrology to predict who's going to win an election or what's going to happen, but typically there has not been any conclusive evidence that this is possible, right? So we could potentially end up in a situation where we spend or dedicate all our life to some kind of abstract conceptual or theoretical pursuit that has no practical inherent basis, right? And when we do that, well, you know, we're hit with a problem. That is the conflict with extroverted sensing. So when I speak of the importance of integrating extroverted sensing with introverted intuition, what I mean is you need to make sure that what you theorize about, what you speculate on, can be measured or tested or proven in concrete reality, right? So you have to consistently go out, formulate a theory, formulate a hypothesis, and then think of and go out in the real world and see what fits with that map. And you have to have this back and forth iterative process, because you have to surrender to extroverted sensing in this regard and accept that it knows and it can disprove of your theories. And if they disprove of your theories, you have to change your theories or find a different theory or concept that will work better. If we continue to hold to ancient theories and ideas, like the idea that, you know, the entire world can be divided into either earth, air, fire, or water, we'd be dealing with inferior models that have long since been outdated. But we can also see that there's been introverted intuitives that have achieved massive accomplishments through their process and how they think and how they reason about the world. If you look, for example, at Isaac Newton, he's the perfect blend of an introverted intuitive with well-integrated extroverted sensing, because he didn't just look at abstract conceptual theories, he also looked at practical reality. When he saw an apple fall from a tree, he saw and thought about it. Why did that apple fall from the tree? And from that process, he created calculus. And while Isaac Newton was fascinated with alchemy and spent years studying the emerald tablet and different myths and different astrological models and systems and things that we consider to be crack pottery today, he actually used these models to create calculus. And so he made serious advancements in the field of mathematics. And all of this goes to prove one thing, and that is that alchemy and introverted intuition continues to be an interesting and relevant way for people to hypothesize and speculate and theorize about what could happen. Now, for those of you who don't know, but it's not specifically so that introverted intuition is the knowledge itself. It's rather the case that introverted intuition is the process by which you attain knowledge, and so it can be used to study a wide range of topics and subjects. And what makes it introverted intuition is not the knowledge itself, but it's rather how you choose to break down and approach a new subject, how you enjoy to learn, and your specific manner through which you learn and gather information. I'm currently working on a test that specifically is supposed to measure for introverted intuition. I'm currently working on a test that will specifically measure for introverted intuition. And the goal of that test is to have you, first of all, learn a set of random abstract theories and words. And then after that, I'm going to ask you to organize information according to these words. And your ability to organize the information correctly and according to certain principles and to follow them accurately, that in itself will determine your introverted intuition and your level of this intelligence. But it probably goes deeper, and probably the best thing you could do to test your introverted intuition would be to come up with theories or concepts or symbols of your own, and then to formulate rules and principles to study those and to test and measure your own ability to do and engage in this process quickly and effectively and in a way that can be used and to have rational and practical purpose in the world. So yeah, that's what you don't know about introverted intuition yet. Well, I hope you know it now. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe my channel on patreon.com/Erik Thor if you want to learn more about INFJs or INTJs or introverted intuition. I publish multiple articles on Patreon in my secret archives. So happy reading, and see you in the next video.